tomorrow's a better day, Andrew. Right. Since it has been an eternity since last time, does anyone remember what happened last time? And can share to me as well?
Well, last thing I realized is we were all anthropomorphic animals um, in a forest town. That's about as far as I got.
That's it. That's where the notes end.
I have moss is not dangerous, ended on the bouncy mushrooms.
Yes.
That sounds, yes.
We just.
But I think that might have been from the session prior.
These are killer.
Yeah, well, we lost the last 2 episodes we were recording, so I'll have to apologize about that.
I now distinctly remember Apoc going shirtless, covered in oil.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that happened.
Like, I think that was like the entire session. Just Apoc
He's just
shirtless, just trying to
Yeah, I can't believe we lost those tapes.
Yeah, I kind of sad about that because that was pretty epic.
And that part where Eric just ripped off his shirt and just reenacted it was great.
Solidarity, yeah. And who would have thought that I had the oil on hand?
Yeah,
I know, right?
Already.
So,
On the monkey.
No one will ever see.
In retrospect, I wouldn't have done it with canola. I would have gone with baby oil.
Oh,
Cool.
Olive oil is supposed to be very good for your skin.
yeah, but that shit's expensive.
That shit's very expensive.
So
like a $200 bath.
Yeah.
Yeah, we solved the disc. We found a cavern in the cave system that opened up on a biosphere. We worked our way through kind of this mushroom thing. We basically spent, I think, the last whole session jumping from one mushroom to a second one, and I think that's the better part of the whole thing. Was just trying to survive, jumping from mushroom to mushroom.
Elle fell in?
Immediately.
Elle and Apoc.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yep. Elle made it like 2 mushrooms. And on the first big roll, she missed with a nat 1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And landed in what you now realize is some form of living thorn vine that is just absolutely covering the floor of this massive like microcosm internal cave ecosystem that you're currently trying to move through.
And if I remember correctly, I think it's really like what's the word I'm looking for? Like deep brambles. Like we tried to burn away the top, and it was just like layers upon layers.
Yes, yeah, with Aurora's blight spell initially trying to get rid of some of the bramble to see the forest floor. You realize that you have absolutely no idea how deep the brambles are, and how, by comparison, how large the trees are that are making up this forested micro ecosystem in this cave. And saying micro doesn't do it quite justice, as it is just absolutely massive to the point where you feel like mist on your face, and seeing even some creatures aside from the living brambles underneath you, interacting a little bit with some butterflies that gave Basil a bit of a run for his money while Elle was immediately struggling with the brambles on the ground. Following what you believe to be, making your way towards what you believe to be some form of river or running water, knowing that there is a waterfall at the opposite end, a target at least. If nothing else, the one thing that isn't tree or bramble at this point. Using the mushrooms, you realize that once you are on the mushrooms, it's hard to stop bouncing. And you were able to make your way from mushroom to mushroom, climbing through a thicket of trees at one point as well, to make your way to one of you shirtless, but to make your way to one of the mushrooms on the bank of what looks to be a flowing river. And I will send out the map. Please load. Okay, thank God, we're good.
Well, you made it smaller this time. Nice.
So fun fact, when I went to start prepping for this session, I opened it on my new computer and it wouldn't load for me either.
Oh,
And when I went to go try and find the images that I had built and saved on my old computer, I couldn't find them. So this is the same image, copy and pasted and rotated and twisted to
That's
make
fine.
one tiny piece.
You know, if
So we
you-
scrapped a lot of this.
If you didn't say anything, I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, well,
we can add some texture.
yeah, go for it. But you find your, oh, sorry, Mrs. Q wants to join. I don't know how to take that off. You find yourself after working your way through a thicket of trees, and the trees are at this point about halfway through the cave ecosystem itself. These trees are massive, not quite, you can have both if you want, not quite up to the standard or the size of the tree of Alderheart, but like getting kind of close to that sort of forested area, this old growth forest around Alderheart itself. Scurrying your way through a thicket of trees before realizing that there isn't another one to go to, you all dropped down to where you see yourself. You all drop down to where you see yourself, kind of bouncing on a cluster of two different mushrooms. The spray of this river kind of splashing onto your face. You get the sense that you don't quite smell or taste any salt from the spray of the river. It appears to be like a crystal clear kind of freshwater source. And as you are hopping up and down on this mushroom, you see a few more mushrooms within the river on the other side of the bank, about 40, 50 feet away. It's hard to tell. The bank appears to be lined with a few more trees, nothing quite like the thicket that you were just moving through. And as you kind of take a peek upstream, you do see the tips of what looks like white water not too far away. As you can hear that kind of rushing towards you before it seems to sort of calm down slightly in your area. If you look really carefully, you can start to see the bottom, a few rocks, a few like fallen trees that have sunk to the bottom of this river. But as you are bouncing, what would you like to do? Bounce, bounce, bounce.
Look. What do you guys?
Do you still have your armor off?
No, I put it back on.
What do you guys think we should do? Look.
You said that the water was thin where we are or further up?
So it looks calmer where you are, where if you try and look, you can look through the ripples to see closer to the bottom. It still looks pretty deep. It's clear.
How deep are we talking?
It's a little hard to tell bouncing on a mushroom.
Fair enough.
Yeah, a little hard to tell bouncing on a mushroom.
Where the river meets the brambles, do the brambles go into the river and it's like it was flooded over, or is this a carved out separate thing?
It almost looks, from your vantage point, like right on the edge here, it almost looks like the river, either the river's carved its way through the brambles or the brambles have given way to the river.
Okay.
It seems
Interesting.
like canyon-esque almost.
And how rushing is said water? You said it's clear, right? So there's no pouring from the what's the word? Waterfall.
So you can't quite see the waterfall yet, although the roar has definitely gotten louder as you kind of opened up into this more open space. Farther up around, like kind of around this bend area, you can see where I am. Kind of around this bend area, you can see like peaks of white water, but where you are, it's rippling. It's still, it's not still, but it is not as, it'd still be a task to try and swim across. It looks like there's still a current, but it's not going to pull you under, hopefully.
Channelized water through scars like that tend to pick up velocity, so I wouldn't recommend swimming within it.
Oh,
So do we all just float across slowly?
Well, my background in fluvial hydrodynamics is coming in useful at this point.
Learn something new. every day.
That's in character. Eric himself has no idea what he's talking about.
You said a word there that I'm not sure is an actual word, but we can go for it.
fluvial?
Fluvial?
Is that what you said?
Yeah, fluvial hydrodynamics.
Fluvial.
Steph was here, she would know.
Yeah, Archimedes Fluvius is the founder of that field of.
Oh, stop it.
So Basil turns to the group, bouncing up and down, trying to sync up with them. Do we jump across?
How far is that one mushroom? And do we want to keep bouncing? At some point, do we need to just
Well,
stop bouncing?
if we jump in the water, we risk getting carried away.
Now,
What
would
if-
we call this a swamp? What would this
You're
nature?
thinking it's a little more like a forest.
Yeah, okay.
To answer your question about how far the how
About-
far
The closest one is about 50 something feet.
so don't worry about the actual measurement. It kind of
Okay.
got all messed up when the maps got messed up. Essentially, I'm just going to tell you when you have to roll. Rolling is going to be a jump any greater than like 20 feet.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we
So I have my little marks.
We didn't stop on mushrooms before. I'm not going to start now. Ah!
Yeah, so Basil follows suit and jumps.
We all
Alright.
jump at the same time, like holding hands.
Like a Disney cartoon.
Hell, you go first.
Aw.
I keep thinking like I have the song, "We're gonna make it after all," and we just like jump and like freeze in the air. You know, like yeah.
Okay, I guess we're jumping.
All right, we jump.
All right, so you picked the one that was farther. So I am going to need everybody in my notes. I am going to need everybody to make a where the hell is it?
Now, would we go for the
To
further
make an
one?
athletics check.
Or would we go for the closer one?
I just followed
My goodness.
Aurora.
Your decision has already been made.
You said don't worry about the distance.
I said I will tell you when you have to roll. You can clearly see that one is farther.
What are we rolling?
You are rolling athletics.
Ooh.
Oops.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Good and tight. Good and tight.
Did someone sneeze?
Yep.
Oh, ready.
Nice roll.
I
Thank
got
you.
an 11 here.
11 as well.
19.
Okay.
Also 19. I imagine that like Mrs. Q's like petticoat kind of like poofs out with this one and like really helps with the process of landing.
I love that. I think that's exactly what happens.
I also
Yeah.
imagine that because
Yeah.
two of us rolled the same, that we know who's holding hands jumping across.
I love that.
Yeah.
As everyone, a few of you holding hands, a little bit of a Mary Poppins on Mr. or Mrs. Q's side. You all make it to that mushroom. Your feet kind of slip a little bit as you realize the top is just a little bit damp from the mushroom growing in the water. And you see your two druids, Elle and Astra, who I most definitely forgot about last time. Go ahead and try and jump and miss their footing just a little bit as they jump off the mushroom before both of them kind of spreading open their wings and just barely making it to your mushroom. Barely making it to your mushroom. As with each bounce, you kind of see as you look down the kind of like water on a trampoline where you bounce and all the water droplets bounce up. You bounce and all the water droplets bounce up. Your feet are getting a little bit wet at this point. Where are you headed next?
So remind me, are we trying to make it like here?
Good question.
So yeah, good question. Sorry, I should have oriented you here. So you had come from this direction.
Yes.
Apoc had seen that there was a waterfall somewhere over in this direction. And you know the cave itself is very much like a circular sort of situation.
Okay.
So you know you were trying to get across. You didn't have a target necessarily that you were going for, just that you were trying to get across the way.
Mm.
I say we still head towards that cave.
By the waterfall?
Yeah.
Yeah. Might be some
Seems-
cool stuff in there.
Can we, from our mushroom, make it to the tree line? And then just like, same thing, because it seems like that all the trees are pretty close and sort of connect. We just like climb through the trees all the way towards where the waterfall is. Rather than jumping.
Is that a question for me or a question to your party?
Lead,
I guess-
lead the way, Apoc. Lead the way.
All right, we jump.
Where are you jumping?
Jump, 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 jump.
All right, follow Apoc.
Yay.
All right.
Do we roll?
Not be your default generally.
So don't look at my master map.
I'm not.
Don't look at my
I'm looking
master
at
map.
you. You don't need to hide it. It's okay.
No master map for you.
All right.
No. So with this jump, as you go and jump, you're aiming for that mushroom. You go ahead and jump. A lot of the like dampness of the mushroom you're on has like trickled off the more you've been bouncing on it. And with this jump, there are a few tree branches overhanging that you can grab onto if you need to, but you are able to make it to this next mushroom easier than the first.
I think we're getting the hang of this.
Did we just keep jumping?
I think so.
Is there a mushroom that we could jump to?
Or are those trees like in the way?
So I'm not going to make a roll perception check for this, as you can see kind of in the general space around you. There doesn't look to be a mushroom close by in this case. You can see the trees above you. This looks to be like a thicket. You can see the tree in front of you, although it's hard to see past that as the branches kind of start to weave in. The mushrooms that you can see is this one right in the river or the one you came from, as well as the one across the river. And I would say probably this guy here as well, from where you are, or at least you've seen it.
That'd be a pretty far jump.
Hmm.
To the tree?
To the tree.
This guy?
All right.
That's the one I'm imagining. Well, yeah, that's the right direction, right?
Oh,
All right.
All right.
jumps to the tree.
So an easy jump from the mushroom into the tree, and it's very much like when you land off of a trampoline and you're like on solid ground and try and jump again for a second. It's a little odd having to kind of scurry up all the way into some more like thicker branches at the top of this tree. But you're all able to easily make the jump towards it.
Okay.
Do I happen to see any like seed pods or anything from the trees?
Ooh, I like it. Make me a nature check.
Oh, it's new.
Always looking.
Or I
for
guess,
seeds. Hang on. Oh no. That is a 10.
a 10?
Yeah.
They look like trees from Humblewood. I almost forgot the name of the wood that you were from. They look like the trees from Humblewood, but like if someone were to map out a family lineage where to try and figure out who's older, this definitely feels like that. You don't see anything outright, but if you want to take one more peek before leaving the trees, You might have better luck now that you know it's not exactly like what you wanted or what you thought it would be.
So you're
Very
saying
leafy, very oaky.
I could roll again and see if it's better? Is that what you're saying?
You could take more time where you are to try and do an investigation and roll again. It'll take a bit more time.
Do you guys need a breather? Can you give me 2 minutes?
What are you looking for, Mrs. Q?
Seeds.
It's been a while since I've gone to the bathroom, so sure.
Are you still shirtless and covered in oil?
No.
Oh, okay. Just checking. Okay.
An important question.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna look a little harder for these seeds. Take a second. Have a little snack or something. I hand out food.
You'll find some, Mrs. Q, and I cast guidance.
Thank you.
All right, so go ahead and make an investigation check as you are actively moving through, actively trying to find seeds now, taking a bit of a breather.
Guidance is a D4 plus D4, right? D4. Okay, investigation.
Ooh,
Okay.
nice. The 3.
Okay, so we've got a 21.
Whoa.
Nice.
Okay, so as you are moving through very carefully in a very Mrs. Q fashion, you're kind of looking at each individual like sprig as you're going. And anyone who's watching you, everybody except for Apoc needs to use the washroom. Everyone who's watching you is literally looking at you, kind of flipping through each leaf on these branches as you go. Yeah. And it actually surprises you, even though it looks very like oak-like. Yeah. You don't really find like acorns necessarily. You don't really find anything outright. It's kind of odd. But the more you search, you come to one kind of almost like a fiddlehead. So a sprig that isn't quite grown out yet. And you kind of scratch a little bit at it. You kind of like pull away some of the very, very baby leaves. And you find this like almost iridescent kind of purple, bluey, greeny tinged pod. It's very, very small, like the size of one of your little claws.
Okay.
As you kind of like, with your very practiced, dexterous hands, kind of moving things aside to pull out this one little seed.
Yes. Okay. I will put it in my inventory.
Yes.
Guys, look what I found. Isn't it so beautiful?
What is it, Mrs. Q?
It's a seed. Seed.
But these trees don't bear fruit.
Well, there's a seed. When I couldn't see anything, I thought maybe this was like a giant fern, you know, that it spread by spores.
You should put in your box that preserves.
Special box of preserving seeds. My seed box.
Good find.
My
Mrs.
seed
Q.
preservation box.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you had that.
Just for story, I'm curious, as Apoc is, you know, doing business, I almost imagine just like a little kid, you know, just like
don't think too hard about this.
like spray whatever. I'm curious, like, do we okay, is Apoc pissing on a tree or pissing down to the brambles?
If you really want to know, he's wiping with Mage Hand.
Okay. I just want to know, like, like, I thought it'd be fun to be like, like, does the bramble react in any way?
We're going into a weird direction with this.
We very much are. I'll say you see it like open and then close.
Okay.
Wonderful.
It's like, hey guys, check it out. Anyways, yeah, we can move on.
An interesting D&D session. All right. So as Mrs. Q pockets her seed pod into her tiny little travel garden, kind of concluding like 5-minute breather, 10-minute breather that you have sort of uncomfortably in this tree, although somewhat comfortable considering you realize now that you are tired. It's a bit of an exhausting trek. Where are you headed?
Hi guys, I'm pooped. I'll let somebody else lead.
We all
Can we
know.
make
We all know. We're in the same tree together. I think Aurora like is immediately wanting to get out of this tree ASAP. So
That's
I jump before you even ask to the next tree. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out in the next tree where we're going.
So Basil,
Right.
suit?
Yep.
okay. Close enough. It's an easy jump to the next tree. And as you are moving slowly, that roar is getting louder and louder, and you start to kind of feel a little bit of the mist. Even at this height, you feel like the humidity of the mist from the river below and the waterfall that is upcoming. Where to next?
I say we keep going. So to the next tree and then the next tree. Seems like they're relatively all close.
Almost like it's been copy pasted and flipped around.
So like from one tree to the other.
Can we do
All
that?
right. Yep. This line of trees is close enough. And as you're moving through the trees, there are some moments where you're on the very edge of one of the branches and have to kind of give it a little bit of a jump, and you feel the tree like the branch bow underneath you as you springboard off it. Thankfully, it's close enough a lot of the time, the one you're aiming for. A few bruises, a few like as you kind of hit and get the wind knocked out of you. On some of the bigger leaps you have to take, or missing a foot every so often, but you are able to move through these trees. And as you reach the last tree, pushing your way through and poking your heads out from the other side, you realize now, being in the trees for so long, it was hard to tell, but you have been climbing uphill. And as you poke your head out of the tree, one of the maps that was lost to this area, on the basically the north side of the tree, to your straight through the tree, the sound deafening at this point, you kind of peek through and are almost like face to face with a roaring waterfall, and the cliff face that it's falling from. You look up and it looks like it extends high, not quite touching the ceiling of this yet. Pardon me, not quite touching the ceiling of this cave. But it feels like you can pretty much reach out and put a hand on that same kind of iridescent, that like bioluminescent carpet moss thing that seems to line the walls of this cavern.
So we're at the base of the waterfall, and the waterfall goes up.
It's almost like you are like a third of the way up.
Okay.
Like you're almost like face to face with it a third of the way up. You look down and you can see that it's a hefty drop back to the river if you were to fall. Like you're kind of hanging over the water at this point.
Gotcha. Ooh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Is there water blocking us, or can we get through into the cave?
So you're in a cave right now. I should have specified. You're in a cave right now. When you first saw the waterfall, you were at the farthest end, like had just gotten through that area of the disc.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily see a cave entrance at that distance, but if you want, you can make a perception check.
Sure.
To see what you see. You can all make perception checks.
Is there like a pathway or somewhere where this water is flowing from? That's pretty good. That's a 21.
Ooh, very nice.
Nice.
My perception is not that good.
11.
11?
11, yes.
I only rolled an 8.
21.
Ooh.
21.
Yeah, we're holding hands.
Oh, I guess Elle and Astra. Oh. Elle. What did I say to roll?
Perception.
Okay. So with a 21 and Elle, who is a little bit tired, a little bit hurt from her encounter with the brambles, but still rolling high enough to kind of help you guys look around. You were asking for specific paths to go up, and you do indeed kind of like the path that you took down one story of the cliff when you first walked in. You see it, it's kind of hard to see, especially from where you are. But it looks like, halfway down the trunk of the tree that you're currently in, it's almost like one, you ever seen those images of cultures that weave tree roots together to make like bridges that cross caverns? Mm-hmm. It's very much like that, where it looks like the tree branch almost has like a path that's been worn into it. It looks very, very sturdy and like hanging over one side of the, hanging just to the side of the waterfall, like actually touching the cliff. You can see where the water has kind of stripped away part of the branch, and where moss has started to grow over this path. But Mrs. Q and Apoc, taking really good looks, you can see that there is remnants of a path there. It looks to lead beside the cliff itself. And you can kind of see, at least to the point where you are, with the cliff face too far away to necessarily reach, but you can see that there looks to be indentations of not necessarily recently stomped on moss, but indentations that shouldn't be there. Basil, Aurora, unfortunately, you got a bit of water in your eyes. Astra too, as you're trying to take a closer look.
Whoa.
Basil, is my makeup running?
Just mascara touch.
Oh, looks like I've been crying. Oh.
Should have used the waterproof stuff.
You know how expensive that stuff is?
Take off his helmet and like tries to pour the water out, shake it up.
That's for special occasions. It's too expensive to use just in the daily.
I don't like how much you know about that.
Is that what Daddy says?
Poppy.
Sorry.
There looks to be a path.
Apoc sees the path and instantly forgets for that line.
I mean, he's too distracted by whatever's going on over there.
But it looks like the path may have been used, which could be a good thing or could be a not so good thing. Maybe we can go look closer at it.
Can Sir Basil drop down to this path ledge?
Yeah, so having it pointed out to you, you're able to like climb back into the tree, climb down some of the branches, and find the one that looks to have this path leading towards the cliff edge. And the roar of that waterfall and the like spray that you're getting like on your whiskers, on your nose, sticking to your fur is like real. It's starting to get a little distracting. You're starting to get like wet socks kind of feeling, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can kind of scurry down, and it does indeed look to be like a path, like a consciously built bridge from this tree to the cliff face. Doesn't really look, it's well worn, but also looks like whoever built it followed the leave nothing but footprints kind of situation.
Can we? Are you the only one who's down there right now?
I mean, I assume you guys follow.
I assume I do too.
Yeah.
Mostly because I want to look and see. Can we tell anything about the size of the footprint?
Yes. Can we discern
From the
anything?
indentations in the moss?
Like, is it like a
Does it look like it has paws?
Oh yeah. Like, would we be able to know? Like, oh, it's a
Claws?
gerbil footprint. It's something like that.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead and make a nature check for me here. You can all make nature checks if you're all kind of looking around for it, but
Well, let me check.
with Mrs. Q and with Basil.
Yeah. Let's do.
You took a sample of this, right?
Huh?
You took a sample of this like carpet moss.
I think so.
19.
10.
Oh,
Also 10.
We're holding hands still.
11.
Be careful, Mrs. Q. I want you to slip.
Well, thank you, Dan.
As you are all musing over this, trying to figure it out, trying to see if there's like a fresh footprint. And I should be clear, you don't necessarily see someone who stomped through this moss. But you hear Astra kind of pipe up as she sort of looks and is kind of like flipping over pieces of the moss. She kind of pipes up and needing to shout over the roar of this waterfall. She says, it's a very slow growing plant, if that's what you're worried about. This path could be ancient. It's slow to overtake, but once it does, it's like a carpet. It stays forever. This path could be very old, and nature could have just started taking it back.
Hmm.
Mm.
Sorry. So none of it looks like recently crushed, because I feel like you would be able to tell if it was recent versus not recent, even if it was a slow growing plant.
Yeah. And in response, Astra, it doesn't look like there's anything. It doesn't look like there's any new disruption to it. It's very slow to overtake whatever existed here for many years, many years. Remember, we're dealing with an old place if those carvings are to be believed.
I suppose that means we're not, we don't need to be too worried about coming face to face with something
Looks
down the
like,
path that has recently taken this path.
right. Elle, you go first, lest you fall.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was, right?
That was pretty good, yeah.
You see her go ahead and tromp across the bridge, jump across this branch bridge. It's like a suspension bridge where it kind of like shakes a little as she's going across, and anybody else who's on it feels like they need to hold on.
Oh, careful, Mrs. Q.
But she gets to the other side where it interacts with the cliff, and she turns around and you hear her go, or you see her go, but you can't hear her over the roar of the waterfall.
What?
What? We can't hear you.
All right, let's go.
We just make it towards her.
All right. You are now on a path on the cliff face, the waterfall just filling your ears. In order to hear or talk at all, you have to basically shout like a very loud bar, just bumping with music. It's not unlike the path that you had climbed down when you first entered this like cave ecosystem. It seems to be narrow, windy, kind of like a one person at a time. The like carpet moss growing basically vertically on this rock beside you. And it kind of like double backs and hairpins in on itself. Excuse me, but it looks to go up. Excuse me. It looks to travel upwards. It doesn't look, as you kind of look over the edge and see just a pool of white water underneath you where the waterfall is like crashing into the start of this river. You don't necessarily see a trod path way down. As you all start to kind of move up one at a time, slipping every so often and catching yourself, you kind of go back and forth towards the waterfall, back and forth once more, stepping very carefully. Getting a little tired as you're needing to like really, really shimmy across.
Can
And at one point, yep.
Could I like? I'm assuming because like some of the spray from the waterfalls making it a little slipperier. Can I cast shape water just to like push water off to get some like dry spots to make it a little easier for whoever's going?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As everyone feels their feet grip a little bit more, as Aurora is just moving the water off of the path. Still like a little bit muddy, but certainly not as bad or treacherous as it was before.
Any little
Having
bit
a
helps.
giant squeegee.
I actually love that's a great way to think of that. And as you double back once, twice, the third time you double back heading towards the waterfall, you realize as you keep looking down a little bit every so often, you are getting higher and higher. Looking up, it doesn't appear like you're getting any closer to the top of this waterfall as it is just massive. And you all kind of sort of bump into each other at one point as you realize Elle leading the way has stopped. And she kind of turns around and she just yells, "The pathway ends here. What do we do? It ends. Can't go up anymore."
Does it go into the water?
She kind of turns back and there is just like a wall of water in front of her. The druids are rolling hot tonight. Maybe? You see her sort of reach forward, her hand like almost touching it, as it almost looks to kind of sneak into a little like hole or a little like divot of the wall itself. She kind of turns back. It feels like there's something like a carving. Like there's something on the wall, but I can't see it.
Aurora, can you move the water?
It's too much water. It's moving too fast. I can't. And like I can dry stuff out. Like, say your hair is wet, I can dry that out quickly. But this waterfall is just way too much for me.
We just need to maybe see, do we have something that we could use to divert the water just briefly? Like a...
If you... Oh, sorry. No, keep going.
What?
You sound like you had something there. I have a different idea, but if yours works too, then I'd rather do that.
I was asking if we had something that we could use to sort of like divert the water briefly from that area, like an umbrella or something.
Or like a funnel or something.
Something to like...
How much space do we need? Like how wide like this little the carving, how deep in does it go?
She kind of turns back and sticks her hand, and as she's doing it, it literally looks like her hand is disappearing in the waterfall. The water is like stuck like next to the rock.
10 feet or so?
She's kind of feeling, she's like, I don't know, at least the width of my hand.
Okay. That's not so bad.
I got an idea. Can we switch spots for a second?
Sure.
I crawl over, and do I want to burn a spell slot for this? Okay, I'm gonna burn this spell slot. As you see me, what's the flavor of this gonna be? I pull out some like little crystal beads. They're all like on a string, and you start to see them glow as I circle them around, and you see something I've done multiple times before, usually before going to bed, that I'm prepping rather than in like our adventures. As you see, vroom, the little tiny hut, 10-foot radius, so 20 feet across.
Ooh. Yes.
That creates basically a bubble that prevents any creatures or objects to pass through it. So I can create a space allowing only what I want in. So I'm going to bar the water from going around this bubble if I can.
That
That's-
is super creative. Oh
Love that.
man. I love that.
And
Yeah,
I'll
that's
use a
awesome.
spell slot so I don't have to like wait the 10 minutes.
Gotcha. That was the deliberation. I see. And as
Does this
Aurora,
Yes.
you actually see the waterfall, this raging waterfall, basically come to a halt where Aurora's dome, this magical dome, and just start pounding on one side. And you can almost see, you swear you see like ripples from the dome itself, something you've never seen on a clear dome before. As Aurora, right in front of you, what was once a raging waterfall, with your dome, you see that you can actually slip around the corner to the entrance to a different cavern.
Right. Yeah. Hurry up, guys. It's a lot to hold back. Come on, hurry.
What was the picture? What was the thing?
The statue.
Oh, Aurora, as you kind of do that and just like peek around the corner where you saw
I can't
Elle
move, guys. You gotta do this.
You see a face.
There's a face. Get in here, guys. You can get in here.
Sir Basil sneaks, probably because he's so small, like underneath Aurora, like and just like walks through.
How big is it?
It's 20 feet wide in terms of the dome.
Oh, sorry, I meant the face.
As you all like sneak past Aurora into this cavern, you can see very similar to the carvings you saw initially. You see like faces, like chiseled faces into the side, much more pronounced, very detailed, like extremely detailed. Like someone went in with fine tools after the initial carvings, very reminiscent of the ones you saw previous to the disc chamber. But these far more pronounced, very much like alcoves with statues built in instead of just rudimentary outlines carved into a wall. But the faces are unmistakable. They're the same four that you've seen kind of repeated in paintings and other carvings throughout this dungeon, throughout this area. As you all kind of sneak in, Aurora holding the little bit back. It's a very kind of fine ledge, as you have to basically hug the wall and turn the corner, shimmy just a little bit more before you feel safe enough to be in the clear of the rest of the raging water. The waterfall, very, very present behind you should you slip. But you're all able to make it in, Astra kind of bringing up the rear. As Aurora, you are the only one sort of left out on the ledge on the other side of the waterfall.
I'll join the group.
Gosh, that was so neat.
Very cool.
Sorry, just gotta flip to what I need here.
Yeah, so like the tiny hut disappears if I leave the dome, so I'll wait till everybody's out.
Sorry, I forgot to mark this page and I just need to find it.
You guys all safe?
We're through.
Yeah,
Are you okay if I let this thing drop?
yeah, I think we're okay. I think we're all good.
Okay.
Were you gonna get hit by water if you just let it drop?
No, I don't know. We'll see. I dive out.
It's very epic.
Yeah.
The dive out as the hut collapses.
It's, you know what? I wait for my moment. It's very mindful, very demure. We're good.
So not dramatic at all. Perfect. As soon as the hut falls and the water slams back into place, the light in this room drops. There is no light source at this point, not like the kind of luminescence or the moonlight, the luminescence from the moss that was in the previous cavern, or the like strip of moonlight that was in the disc cavern. And you find yourself sort of struggling for a little bit until Astra, I believe, Aster doesn't have it. You find yourself struggling for a second as you wait for your eyes to adjust to the dimness, while that roaring waterfall is almost a security behind you at this point, knowing that nothing can really sneak up on you through the water. But as you blink and your eyes adjust a little bit more, where all the tunnels before you were very beautiful, intricate, carved, regardless of how rudimentary it may have been, it was intentional. What you see before you as your eyes slowly start to make out the texture of the wall is almost like chipped stone, like shards of like glass obsidian that's just been sheared away. That's the word I'm looking for. That's just kind of been sheared away from the wall slowly over time. You almost see like fragments of very, very thin rock that kind of litter the sides of the caverns where the walls meet the floor, where previous denizens, anyone who's passed through before, maybe the creators of the tunnels themselves, have almost intentionally chipped away at this stone to make it sharp, is the word that comes to mind. Like if you ran your hand along the wall and catch an edge, you might cut yourself on this stone. It's almost got a little bit of like a shine to it as the water kind of falls. Any light that sort of flickers through or reflects off the water almost has like a blade being pulled out of a sheath, that like shine of light down a crystal clear blade. It's odd compared to everything you've seen before. And as you sort of like reach out to kind of scratch at it or touch it, you see that pieces of it are like glass, super, super smooth, whereas other pieces are almost like porous, like a soapstone. It's strange. The only thing denoting that it is of any semblance to the caves you've seen before are the 4 alcoves with the 4 statues of the faces that you recognize. What do you do?
If we look at the ground, do we see a clear worn path in the stone? A direction, like there's obvious people more moving forward through this space?
Direction, yes, as there only appears to be one way to go. There doesn't appear in this particular kind of, I'll call it like a foyer area right through the waterfall. It doesn't appear that there are any offshoots as far as you can see, which in the dark is no more than what, 120 feet with dark vision, if any of you have it. 60 feet with dark vision, sorry, if any of you have it.
I've got 120.
You've got 120. I knew one of you did. And as you, as Aurora's eyes, even with dark vision, the darkness is oppressive, and you can just make out a straight tunnel for 120 feet.
We've also got 30 feet of tremor sense, just in case anything comes too close that we can't see.
Should we light a light?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't have dark vision.
Aurora, make a perception check.
Oh, that's not one of my strong suits. 13.
13, and it's 30 feet of tremor sense?
Yes, please.
Please? So as Mrs. Q and Apoc got a light, planning to start lighting up, you kind of close your eyes for the second and take a breath.
Just the picture of Mrs. Q lighting up.
Gotcha. You close your eyes and take a breath and just try and reach out with your tremor sense. The crystal at your hip starts to It usually kind of vibrates the crystal at your hip. This time it almost feels like it burns.
Ooh.
And as you sort of like focus in on that feeling, you get kind of, the best way you can describe it is like fractals through this area. You're not really sensing anything, but you're not sensing something.
Hmm.
Mm.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Does anyone have a torch? I've got a tinderbox. Or anything we can light on fire?
Um, Basil takes off his Grove camo cloak, like rips off a piece of it. And like maybe he like wraps it around. What does he have? Some type of, anybody have anything like a stick?
I've got a stake you could use, but we don't really have any oil to douse this in.
If only we had some oil.
None of you can make light? Guys.
Well, so Mrs. Q can, right? She can create fire, but she's in the washroom.
I don't think she can.
I have a torch.
She can light or snuff a candle.
I have a torch. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, here, pass that over. I'll light it with the tinderbox. If you have a torch. And we did not stock up.
All right, as you light up the torch, it's easy enough. You kind of start to circle around. Aurora waking up as you see the light behind your eyelids once more, kind of squinting as you open your eyes. In this area, the roaring of the waterfall behind you, the torch casting very strange, sharp shadows as the jaggedness of the walls is even more pronounced with the light on one side and the darkness on the other. But you can all see now.
I'm picturing something like an igneous type, like volcanic glass rock.
Yes,
Whoa.
very much so.
Okay. Very
Like
good
if you've ever
description.
seen if you've ever seen a shard of obsidian, it very much looks like
that's what I
a
was.
striated piece of black glass.
When you're describing it, I was like, oh, this is like.
Yeah, it's very volcanic in nature.
Yeah.
Yes. The shadows are especially kind of deep and eerie, where those four alcoves of the four, what you now intuit to be the first children, the representation of the first children of the four aspects, the four core elements behind you.
Would I recognize this cave to be similar to a cave from my past?
I'm going to say no to that. This is a very unique thing that you've never quite seen before.
My guess was no. I just want to confirm that.
It's not something you come across in your everyday travels through Humblewood. It's very, there are no volcanoes that you know of in Humblewood or the surrounding areas. What are we doing?
Realizing there's only really one path forward, Sir Basil just says to the group, should we push on?
Yeah, but Mrs. Q is still using the washroom, so maybe we should wait a little bit.
Why don't we take a breather?
You want to see how the stone is reacting to Mrs. Q? Hey, Basil?
But Basil just a peeping Tom. Mrs. Q. Too much tea.
Goodness.
Jeez.
Let's actually take a breather.
Okay.
Let's take 5.
Okay.
Come back. I want this conversation. Say orange chocolate for yes or mint chocolate for no.
Orange chocolate.
Orange chocolate.
Orange chocolate.
That was way more orange chocolates than I thought I was gonna get. That's great. Alrighty. Clean hands. Alrighty. So I could have used this time to find my passage again. Sorry. So as you begin down the tunnel itself, leaving behind those 4 alcoves with the 4 statues, and making your way down the kind of oppressing darkness that is only held at bay by the like 30-foot radius light of the one torch that you have with you. Who is leading the way?
Basil, you got the torch, right?
I gave it to Apoc.
Was it Apoc? You might have your armor back on, but are you still like soaking in grease?
Yeah.
That is like the 3rd time you've been asked.
I don't know. Some of it got washed away by the waterfall, but maybe.
Can I do an oil check on Apoc?
Yes.
Make an investigation check.
Oh, that's a nat 1. So I get lost in Apoc's muscles and don't actually answer the question.
Oh no.
Aurora is just kind of staring at you as she's turned to face you for a little bit.
So much
What do you do?
So much oil.
Apoc's just
Dot, dot, dot.
smiling backwards. Doesn't know what to say.
Well, lead on. You look like you know what you're doing.
Apoc just walks forward, thinking to himself, do I?
All right. So you're leading the way?
I guess. I mean, the girl told him to.
Does he?
All right. So go ahead and make me a perception check,
Boy.
Apoc, as you are leading the way on this charge.
That is a dirty 20.
Ooh.
As you are walking down this tunnel, following your ranger friend, although it's not quite a mountain necessarily for you. That was one of your favorite terrains, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Not quite a mountain necessarily. However, this is very reminiscent of the time that you all climbed the mountains on your way to the bandit encampment. Some memories coming back of losing Dace at that point, at least with a bit of a question mark. Not quite sure what happened to him truly.
Guys, you guys all look sad for a minute. What's up?
Memories of Petra suddenly crossing your mind once more. And the success of your ability to get through that encounter on the mountain kind of gives you a little bit of an extra oomph as you keep your eyes wide open walking down this tunnel. And as you do, you realize on some of these like sharp shards, there appears to be like forms of writing. The first actual true writing that you've seen in a very long time. In this, actually at all, sorry, in this cave. I don't think there's been any writing at all.
What does it say?
As you go and try and decipher it, does anyone speak? I guess I should actually. What languages do you know?
Birdfolk, Servant, Common, Apoc, Primordial. I have one that just says rare language because I didn't know what to pick. Sylvan and Vulcan.
Okay. As you go to try and read the language, you realize you can't.
Hey, can anybody read this? It looks all squiggly and foreign.
I don't know.
So you all kind of go over. What's that, Basil?
I was like, I don't know, can we?
What languages do you speak?
Common and giant.
I like to figure this out again.
Aurora, what languages do you speak?
Bird folk, primordial, and Vulcan. I'm also telepathic, but I haven't told anybody that yet.
Okay. Just a footnote.
Under
Askew?
languages. I just remembered.
It's under languages. That's actually good to know.
That's funny.
I'm trying to find it on the app and I can't find it. Where does it say languages?
Proficiencies.
Proficiency.
Yeah.
Ah, I was
So
one
it should
step
say
away.
common, which is probably like your
It
race.
literally just says common. The
Oh.
answer is I can speak only one language. I'm very British.
But you can
me.
speak to it.
Georgina, that's so good. If you don't have an inspiration point, you could take it for that.
Thank you.
I will say Aurora and Apoc. It sort of looks familiar, like you can make out like the word the, but it's still a little too foreign until you see Elle kind of step up and be like, it's not as good as some of my stories, but this is a pretty good story.
What's it say?
Hey,
Jinx. She kind of like looks and scratches her head and like stands on tiptoes as she sort of follows it down. She's like, well, it's a story about a wizard, and it's saying that he stole something from something big, something called a or something. I don't know. It's a little scratched out. But something big died. Oh, wait a second. She like scratches out a little bit. It says the ice died and the wizard stole a shard. And the shard was dangerous. So it was buried here. Sounds kind of like what we're looking for, right, Apoc?
stole it from a boar?
It's like, look at this word. Like half of it's scratched out.
Is it
Can't
just,
see?
do I recognize the word boar?
It's like you're looking at something that has the same root to the language, but it's just a little hard to actually make out the individual characters.
Hmm.
Huh.
But Elle, because I feel like Elle would know this, slash Steph would figure this out, what you're getting at. Not bore like what you are, like BORE,
Oh,
but it's not the full word. There's something else. Whatever it is, it's this thing.
like you boar? I just point over at Aurora, like Aurora boar.
Like my Borealis cloak?
Yeah.
Like Borealis?
She kind of like scratches. Maybe there's more letters, so maybe. Borealis, maybe.
Is sorry, I was paying too close attention to my crochet. So there's only we know that there's letters after this word. We can't tell what the letters are, so we are trying to figure out what they are, but the first three are ball.
Yeah, like Elle can essentially read that it says BOR, but it looks like some of the rock has chipped away. It looks like it's a little harder to read. Like it wasn't as clear when it was initially carved. Like time has sort of weathered it a little bit.
Okay.
Yep.
Like if you were to feel it, could you feel the letters, but they're just like fade, like have been rubbed away too much?
She kind of like feels it a little bit.
Oh, don't cut yourself.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I'm fine. I mean, it might, it's hard to feel the letters. I read, I don't feel when I read, but it could be Borealis. That would make sense. I feel like we've seen that word before. Maybe it's just Aurora said it with her cloak, but
Yeah,
Mrs. Q says, "Hey Elle, do you still have
those
your
crayons.
crayons with you?"
yes.
And Apoc, do you still have a piece of paper for your board logs?
Yeah, I got a ton.
Right. She explains to Elle, put the piece of paper over the part that you can't read, and then use the side of your crayon. And
She's like already doing it.
this is a brass rubbing, except it's stone. That might help you be able to identify some extra letters that have worn away.
You see her kind of looking. And Astra, you see kind of look over her shoulder. And they're sort of looking at it, and it's like, I think it says Borealis.
Cool.
I think. But like, does that matter? We're looking for an ice shard, right? It's the ice shard was stolen from a big ice thing. We know that. And now it's here, right? That's what we're looking for.
I think so.
What's the part with the Borealis?
I just have a cloak that's called the Borealis cloak because like my cloak is. So I'm thinking this is something completely different.
But they say the brass rubbing, the word that we couldn't make out says Borealis.
Well, she thinks it does.
Yeah.
So what's that part say then?
Oh, like I'm from up north. I'm from where it's cold, so like that would make sense that there might be some ties to ice, but you know, this is just like trendy brand name clothing. So like I wouldn't think this has any like lore to it. So whatever this carving is, it's something probably what we're looking for.
Does the carving say anything about where the shard was hidden? It says it was hidden here, but any other details?
It just says it was really powerful and hard to contain.
So
they hid it here.
Can I ask one of you, Basil? You're pretty strong with like hitting stuff. Like you got your sword. Do you have like a hammer or something? I don't want to like break your blades or anything.
I have. No, I have hand axes. No hammer.
I have my cast iron.
That might work. I'm gonna close my eyes and put my hand on the ground. Can someone hit the ground? I'm just gonna try and see if I can feel if there's anything like in the rock. There's like trying to use like a pulse or like echolocation to see if there's like as the vibration through the earth if something pings a little differently with my tremor sense. Okay. Like can someone help me out? I just want to see what's around us.
We have all these pythons and hammers still. You can bang these in. Basil.
Sure. So Basil takes it. I mean, he also has I assume it's a small shovel, but he tries to just like smack it to get the most reverberant sound on the ground.
Harder. Harder. Harder.
I can't do it any harder. No.
Do I pick up anything?
With your tremor sense once more, closing your eyes, you feel nothing for the first two hits until Basil actually uses all his strength to hit. For the first time that you're really focusing, you feel that like wave go out and reach the edge of your tremor sense periphery, your tremor sense vision. Go ahead and make a perception check. We're going to see how well you can interpret.
Perception is 18.
18. Haven't quite honed this skill yet, but a lot of the imagery in this place is extremely familiar to you, over and over, repeated and repeated. And you think back to that time where you first met and received your crystal. And although echolocation is not necessarily something that you're super familiar with how to use, you get a fairly good sense that around you, almost like not just below, but kind of in like a sphere almost, expanding to the ceiling above you in this cave. You feel that there's nothing moving necessarily. It's still. You're quite confident that nothing is hiding in the ground around you.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks, Basil.
You sense anything?
No, it's just really, really stable in here. So, I think we'll try that out somewhere else to see if there's anything nearby. But I'll work on it. I'm gonna hard time reading.
Can you remind me, like, so we just saw these words along the path and there's still further to go, or have we come to like a dead end sort of thing and there's right?
Nope. There still looks to be further to go. This is just a little more that's been left behind.
Are we in like this tight little path, or is it kind of opened up a bit?
It's opened up a bit. So, you guys, have you been to the Defen bunker?
No,
Okay,
I know.
that's okay.
So
So for those who have been to the Defen bunker, it's the tunnel walking in. That's kind of the scale that you're going with. The tunnel that you're in is like, I don't know how big the Defen bunker. It's like a 20-foot diameter kind of situation that you're walking through. It's just the walls are very jagged, built of stone. What do you guys want to do?
Keep going.
I'm curious, before we move on, because the description on the wall said that it was hidden here. Is that the specific words?
That it was, that it was too powerful and needed to be contained here.
I'm just wondering, is the here like literal, and it's like literally hidden, contained in this spot? It could be, well, it could be nothing, but
Was there an arrow?
There was no arrow. No. There was no X.
does anyone have detect magic or anything like that that they can sense? Otherwise, I guess we move on. Or if yeah, because we've already touched the wall and stuff. We would have felt there was.
Go ahead and make an investigation check, Basil.
Okay.
As you're musing this over,
A terrible investigation. Let's go. 13.
13. You give this place a good once over. You kind of ask Elle and Astra, who seem to be able to read the script, the druidic script, without any issue. They confirm that there doesn't appear to be any kind of hidden message in it. You give this area of the tunnel and like a 30-foot berth as good of a once over as you think you're capable of doing in the dim light that you have from the torch. You feel pretty confident with a 13 that you haven't missed anything in the quick sweep that you've given.
Gotcha. Should we move on?
You see Elle kind of go, yes.
Let's keep going.
Hold up.
I'm trying to get Steph's cadence down. I feel like I'm missing like half an octave.
The slight hint of sarcasm.
Yeah. Sorry, Steph. All right. As you continue on, you walk for another 10 minutes, absorbed with your thoughts of what you just read. Walk for another 10. 10 more. The light on your torch is only able to light up 15 feet in front of you maximum as you're moving quickly at first and then getting a little slower as it seems to stretch on forever before whoever is leading the way, I'm going to assume it's still you probably, you notice a very slight, and it takes you a second to actually pinpoint it, but you notice a very slight glow, maybe about 50 feet down the tunnel. Kind of like the sun about to pop over the horizon. Like a red.
What's that? Should we get closer?
We'll follow you.
Yeah, we keep going.
As you walk forward,
does it look flickering, or is it just like a constant light?
From where you are, from 50 feet away, it looks fairly constant. You can't make out any major flickering at this distance.
Okay.
You can roll a perception if you want to keep an eye on it as you get closer.
22.
Ooh, nice.
18. Did you want to roll?
Perception?
Yeah.
9.
Okay. So for those keeping an eye out, Aurora, if you wanted to roll anything for your tremor sense, you can. Just let me know. But keeping an eye out, Apoc in particular, as you slowly start to approach this like dull red light, you realize that it's not necessarily flickering, it's staying quite constant, but it is getting a little bit like bigger almost as you approach. And it's starting to get a little bit warmer as you walk a little closer, but you can quickly close the 50-foot distance and you realize that what you're actually what you're actually seeing is the glow of like embers from the room beyond. And as you kind of poke a little bit closer to what you now understand to be the end of this tunnel, you see that it almost kind of like slowly has been giving way, the ceiling getting higher and higher and higher until it almost looks like one step you're in a tunnel and the next step you're in a vast open room. It looks to be like oblong, like an oval, where it's kind of skinnier on the sides, but a very long room. Very similar to the scorched grove itself. It looks like the ground is almost like covered in charcoal, in like slowly burning embers. Some are burning, some are just this jet black kind of charcoal. And it appears to be mixed in with this almost glass-like shards from the walls of this cavern itself. Thankfully, all of you wearing some well cared for boots, otherwise you'd actually worry about either singeing your feet a little bit or potentially getting a splinter or cutting your feet on the shards of rock. Aurora, the Uggs might not make it through unscathed unless they are magical at this point.
No, I've upgraded to hunter boots for this journey.
So the Uggs are safe, thank goodness.
Yeah, I swapped those out before we went to the Scorched Grove.
I love it.
Check my inventory. It's
I believe you. I don't need to double check. as you really take in your surroundings a bit more, and again, kind of hold the torch aloft, realizing that the embers are almost giving off enough of a glow itself to get a better idea of the room. The ceiling vaults, and you can make out shapes about halfway into the room that almost look like, not that almost look like, but you make out three shapes in the middle of the room that look like these twisted, gnarled, kind of leafless trunks and branches of old, very much like still glowing, still burning trees in the middle of this room.
Okay.
Weird.
Do you think this is linked to what's happening up there?
Can I use my primeval awareness?
Yeah, absolutely.
Phase, fiend, elementals, celestials. Like, are they pinging elementals?
Fae, fiend, elemental, celestial.
Aberrations, dragons, undead within a mile.
You do not get a ping as you reach out and try and see whatever's in this room. You don't sense anything.
They're not elementals.
Mrs. Q, do you think plants, or Elle, do you think plants like to be on fire?
No, I don't think so.
How far away are we from these trees?
You're like 50-ish feet away from the trees. The room is like 100 feet long-ish.
And are the trees like dead center?
From where you are, I'm assuming that you're kind of at the mouth of the cavern as it leads out. They appear to be right in the dead center. Looks like they're a little bit of a trek there. They're straight in front of you.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, they appear to be equidistant from either side of the wall.
And you described it as the trees are still on fire. Like, does that mean that they are like clearly charred and burnt trees that like they're still on fire, or is it like they are like thriving alive trees that are on fire? But like, I don't know. Just
Whoever wants to, I'm gonna say go ahead and make a nature check.
People assume that my nature is really good. It's pretty average.
really?
Yeah, I just like nature.
13.
Oh, your two druids didn't roll well.
Up, nat one.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I mean, that's an 18. I rolled a 19.
Wow.
Roll of 9.
Stupid.
Apoc.
Aurora, what did you roll?
13.
13. Okay, so Apoc.
You
From
probably
this
have-
distance,
You probably have the most intimate knowledge with trees in terms of the amount you've
From an
carved
orchard.
into.
from this distance, as you're like trying to make it out, and thinking about whether or not this would be a good place for a borlog, you notice that the three trees, they look like tall, very gnarled, very very much like twisted. Not quite like a single not quite like a single trunk, but almost like two saplings, very much like a money tree if you think of how they've been twirled
It's been
together.
bonsai'd.
It's been bonsai'd is what it looks like. However, the trunk, the branches of these trees are like blackened. They look charred. What's interesting that you notice with an 18 is that it almost looks like veins. Like you swear you can see some red glows coming from the trees itself. leading like all the way up to their branches, their leafless branches, like red glowing veins, giving the illusion of, maybe not the illusion, but giving at least the glow of embers, similar to what's on the ground. They're just on the tree.
Weird. Is these trees alive? I know that's a dumb question. All trees are alive, but like they look veiny.
Veiny.
Hello?
Perhaps we should approach with caution then. How can a tree be alive if it's on fire?
We've seen a lot of living things that have been on fire lately.
Hmm.
Not wrong.
Sir Basil would like to draw his sword, kind of hold it out in front of them, and he'll say skadoosh. Create his cold aura and use that as kind of a way to like kind of like carve a path for them as they walk. I assume towards the trees.
Okay. So with your cool aura, the heat that's kind of been building that you hadn't quite realized had been building, you sort of like shake it off a little bit, with almost like a little bit of an air conditioning from Basil's aura, but it's only a 10-foot thing if I remember correctly. A little bit of a smaller aura, but some of the embers sort of fizzle out at your feet, turning into more like blackened charred charcoal, blending in with the like shards, those like chipped pieces of this glassy rock, as you slowly make your way towards the tree. You kind of carve a path, and even looking behind you as your group follows you, you can see very much like you can see a trail of water when you try and put out a fire, or hot embers or hot coals. You can see the path you've carved as just this like blackened path. And as you approach the trees, they grow in height, until you're looking at this massive, not quite as tall as the trees you've been climbing on in the cave before, but you're looking up 40 feet to the top of the branches of this tree as you kind of approach within 20 feet of it, and just sort of stop and kind of take in the tree itself. And now all of you can see these veins that Apoc has seen before. Excuse me, sorry. What do you do?
Do you see any seeds?
Do I see any seeds?
You can make an investigation check.
Investigation's terrible. A 7.
Nope.
Maybe you should check, Mrs. Q.
This tree seems, I'm waddling up to be with you. This tree seems to still be kind of alive. Like it's a fire tree. Like it's designed to be fiery.
How is something like that possible?
There's a lot of things that we've seen and done to here that don't seem possible to me.
Being closer up now, do we see anything else other than like the veins? Like, do we see
Fire ants?
other things? Is there something in the is there things or something in the tree? Do we see like, because you said they were like twisting. Are they twisting around something or
Ooh.
If all of you are up there, you can all make an investigation check as you're a little bit closer and trying to discern this. And if you're looking for something else, something specific, let me know so I can give you the right information.
21.
Okay.
Can I post a Borlog?
Give me 1 second, we'll get to that. Basil, Mrs. Q?
12?
17.
So Basil, you were looking to see, basically get a read on the tree and if it's twisting around anything. With a 12, you can really see the intricacy of this twisting. It's really hard to tell. It's a very big tree. It's a very thick trunk. Like we're talking like the redwoods kind of situation here. Not quite to that extent, but close, as the enormity of this thing that you're looking at, this somehow burning tree, is in front of you. It's hard to tell if it's twisting around anything at this point. Mrs. Q, were you looking for anything in particular? And Aurora, were you looking for anything in particular?
I was looking for like any like other indication that it would be alive, like things that look like they're evidently growing, that aren't just charred up.
Yeah, and like to similar vein, if it's like if this thing is like wanting to be on fire or is in pain, is like being.
Ooh, great question.
Interesting.
Also,
okay.
Looking for insects too.
Insects. Okay. So Mrs. Q looking for signs of life. Aurora kind of looking along the same lines, just in a different way. It's almost a little bit tricky, as there's no way this thing can be alive. There's no sun down here. There's like no water. It's very dry. It's on fire. How on earth could it be alive down here? But Aurora, in the back of your mind, you're kind of like, exactly. How could it be alive down here? And it's really almost bothering you. Mrs. Q, you don't quite see any ants or any leaves or any seeds. You don't really see anything. Kind of like picking around not quite touching the tree at this point, sort of picking around the roots, looking for anything that may have fallen, knowing that the branches themselves are barren. And Aurora, you almost take a step back to kind of refocus on what you're looking at, with the notion that there's no way that it could be here looking like this. There just is no way. You know that Alderheart was kept alive through tender magic. You know that the avium is very much a petrified tree, so no longer alive, but preserved. This is neither of those, and yet it's still standing. You wanted to write a Borlog.
Yeah, well, I had it pre-written, I think, at this point. So I'd just go up and try and like nail it in. It's a picture of what Apoc thinks the aspect of life would look like. Aspect of the frost would look like.
Nice.
And it's just got like looking for aspect. If found, please contact. And it's got like our names below.
You put up a lost kitten poster?
Yeah.
Now you said you had this pre-written. Is this something you're like a poster, like you're hammering in, or are you
Yeah, like
intending
on,
to carve
on
it the way?
stationery, just hammered in.
On stationery hammered in.
Yeah.
Would the stationery burn?
We'll
Well,
see.
Aurora, we're gonna resolve this.
Yeah, that's fine.
As you are pondering this question, this what the heck kind of question, you see Apoc waltz up with a piece of paper and what are you using, an arrow?
I have a hammer and python.
A hammer and a python. And you see him hammer in once. And you, with your 21, see one of the branches and feel under the ground movement as one of the branches comes down and smacks Apoc upside the head. I'm assuming a 27 hits you.
Yeah, that hits.
Apoc, you take. Well, I made a mistake with these because for some. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Does that mean it has to reroll?
Oh, no, it does not have to reroll. You take You take 14
What?
fire damage.
Half because I'm resistant.
Stupid, but yes.
I'm like screaming Apoc's name and just immediately cast Blight, which is the thing I've been waiting to do.
Ouch!
I figured.
It's hot, guys. Don't touch.
As Apoc is like slammed like 20 feet away and kind of goes skidding on his back. You cast Blight. What what does Blight again?
Is it a magical plant? It's a con save 15 with disadvantage if it's a magical plant.
Con save 15 with disadvantage if it's a magical plant. And is it an AoE or is it
just on the one?
Okay. Ooh, yes, it fails.
64 damage.
What?
Let's go.
Night killer over here.
Okay, hold on.
Actually, I'm holding my book as I'm doing this. The Necronomicon, as I'm like channeling this necromantic energy towards the tree.
I was just about to ask. It's necrotic.
Yes.
Necrotic damage.
And question: does hammering in do damage?
I mean, probably.
Sure. Roll a d4.
Oh, you're not even gonna make me attack first. Okay, I'll take it. 3.
Okay. You got like one swing at this, and as your hammer hit the python, that's when this tree reacted, slamming into you and sending you skidding. Aurora reaching out to cast this like necrotic energy. You see the what the hell? You see the veins, these glowing veins kind of darken as that necrotic energy sort of take hold before it brightens back up again. And you see the tree start to almost untwist itself. A face kind of forming up and shoulders kind of forming up as you almost hear like the of a fire being started. I'll send you a picture of what you see as we all roll initiative.
Let's go.
God.
Good or bad?
Good.
Holy smokes, Sean, these dice are on fire for you. Oh,
Nat 20, Eric?
Nat 20 for a 21 total.
Nice.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
Okay,
so
Oh, cool.
Apoc,
21.
21. Basil,
12.
12. Mrs. Q,
7.
7. Aurora,
21.
21. Elle. This dice is for Elle. Okay. Astra. Ooh. Okay, this guy. I need two more sets of dice here.
I actually dig this monster so much. He's so cool.
Okay. Yeah, there's going to be a lot going on behind the scenes here, so give me a second.
Fire Ent.
A fiery Groot.
I am Fire Groot. I am Fire Groot.
Okay, tell me if your map uploads.
We see 2 of them.
Okay, good. No. That's what it's supposed to be. So you would all be Apoc.
Whoa.
So Apoc, you came skidding away. Your little tokens are about 5 feet. Just keep that in mind.
Oh,
Basil, I think. Say that again.
This thing's huge. 5 feet.
It's big. This thing is big.
Is there 1 or 3?
So there are 2 trees on either side of it, but the one in the middle, the one that you plugged in, has come to life.
Okay.
Mrs. Q, where would you be?
I was standing with Basil up close looking.
Because you were investigating, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Ellen Astra went to the side tree. Okay. As you see this thing kind of, the fire is getting a little deeper in its chest. There almost being like a little bit of a shadow that's hanging over it from Aurora's spell, as like 4 arms kind of sprout, 2 from its front, 2 from its back. One of them has like a little bit of oil on it from smacking Apoc across the ground. As it sort of looks at you, its face very like mask-like, almost unmoving, as it just kind of grows and regards all of you. And you hear a low in its chest before words reach your ears. So I'm here to receive guests. So I see I receive guests. Welcome to your trial. As I need to find the right tab. Apoc, you're up first.
Check out my boar log. As the 2 arrows fly out.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. You see, like on one of its 4 arms, you see the boar log stuck to it still. It's like a little bit singed.
Yeah, I get up first, but two attacks into it from the bow.
Okay.
Yeah. First one does a 15 hit.
As the first one just goes wide, like taking a corner off of your boar log, but just goes a little bit wide.
And a 21.
21 hits.
21 hits. Okay, so it's going to be much better. It's going to be 14 points of piercing damage.
Okay.
And that's with the fleas assisting the damage.
I missed the fleas.
Yeah.
As you shoot an arrow into it, you see as your arrow lands and it kind of splinters a little bit. It splinters like a little twig off of this thing before falling to the ground, a little bit on fire, the shaft a little on fire. The tree entity doesn't look to be bothered, as it didn't quite do as much damage as you thought it would.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway.
Tree entity? Tree-ent?
Trentity?
Trentity?
The fiery tree beard.
Yeah. Yes, that's my turn.
Okay.
I'm just gonna. It looks like it can smack from a distance. I'm just gonna back up a little bit.
Okay. Aurora, you're up.
Geez, the tree didn't say what it said. I knew what I was doing, but that's throwing me for a loop now. Guys, what it said trials are beginning. What do you think it means by trials? Like, do we just kill it? Do we have to prove our worth? Like, oh man, I'm overthinking it. Why am I overthinking
it?
As I'm like, you can see I'm kind of like having an existential crisis on what to do. Well, I guess first things first, and you just see me start to frost over as that like sapphire-y skill, the blue glow of my eyes as I take the form of dread. I'm like, are we killing it? And I'm looking to you guys.
Mrs. Q does not like the idea of killing it. It seems to be, as you say, like a trial master, like it's overseeing a test.
Sir Basil will yell out.
All right, so go ahead.
He's going to get yelled like, "What is this trial?"
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do with my turn. Instead of attacking, I'm going to try and please tell us what you'd like us to do. Direct us.
Just die.
Tree explain us, please.
Tree screams. You see this entity kind of looking between you all. Its movements like slower but very precise as it kind of moves its limbs for the first time in a while. And as it regards you, it goes, You do not appear to be the ones I expected. You are not tenders. You must prove yourself to get what you came for.
Wonders.
We have one tender.
He kind of like slowly turns to look. One, but not all.
All?
As he turns back.
How do we prove ourselves?
You see as he kind of starts to
Can you give
reach
us more
towards you.
details, please?
He kind of starts to reach towards you with this like very big glowing hand, the heat getting intense as he reaches out. And he goes, details don't matter here. To obtain the Borealis, you must prove yourself.
Okay. All right. Okay. Was that my action?
You're talking. It's a free action. You still have your turn.
All right, you're gonna die now, Blight.
Yeah.
Constitution with disadvantage, yeah?
Yes, please. 15.
15. Nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. Constitution. I rolled a 15.
Okay. So that's 32 damage. Necrotic.
Okay. As you hit it again and you kind of see it just like sort of shudder before standing back straight, those embers dimming and then glowing brightly as he kind of looks towards you, the caster, and just sort of nods.
Can I go by
Anything
now?
else on your turn? I'm gonna say that ends your turn. Next up is Astra, as she is off to the side with Elle. They were looking at one of the other trees together as she realizes what the heck. Read your stat blocks, folks. I missed something, but that's okay. I missed something on my end because I didn't read the stats block correctly. We'll figure it out next time, I promise. And Astra. As you see Astra realizing what's going on, and she kind of runs just to the side so she can peek at this entity. And you see her kind of reach into a pouch and throw So you reach into the pouch and pull out a little bit of rope and kind of wrap it around her hand. Oh, triggered. And kind of wrap it around her hand. And you see these like blackened vines from underneath kind of shoot up and try and wrap around this entity as she casts grasping vines. Dexterity. Ooh, okay. So as you see the vines appear, hopefully I can do this without messing it up. As you see the vines appear in this area and reach out towards and grasp onto the like very stalk trunk-like legs of this creature. You see this creature stumble as the vines yank it back 20 feet towards the vine itself.
It's really like an AT-AT maneuver.
What is it, like the big things fall
In Star Wars?
something? No, there's a saying about big things.
The bigger they are, the harder.
That's the one. Thank you. As Aster kind of looks at you all and just goes, "What did you do?" As she was behind a different tree at the time that this all popped off. But that will be her turn. And it's now the creature's turn. Pull this back up.
Did she tell us not to fight trees?
She told you to follow her lead through the grove. As this thing sort of straightens up to its full, like 40, 50-foot height, the burning embers glowing, you see the vines that Aster had cast wrapped around almost kind of burn off of this thing as they start to catch fire around its legs. And this creature kind of looks and stretches out both arms, and you see a like ripple of wind come towards you, kind of shaking the branches of the other two trees and shaking the ground around you. And you see as these trees kind of shudder a little in the this like shockwave before starting to move on their own as they almost sort of untwist in a similar fashion and stand up to their full height.
Oh shit, guys.
As this creature casts Animate Trees. And you see the two other trees in the room who are just going to be trees, but look very similar to this thing. Come to life and look down at you with these like mask-like faces built of bark, these like glowing veins of embers burning in your direction. As that is this creature's turn.
Oh.
Next is Elle. Oh, Elle. As part of me is too scared to use up any of Steph's spells without her permission. I think Elle, seeing Astra's vines work fairly well, is going to try something similar and is going to look at the ground under the tree that's closest to her and is going to call forth a series of her own brambles to wrap around the base of this tree, as she's going to go ahead and cast Entangle on it in a 20-foot square. Which would be, I might have to draw the rectangle later, but let's pretend it's right there if that worked. Yeah, it's good enough. And you see these vines kind of twist, very similar to the brambles that she got stuck in. As that is going to be her turn, as she is going to she's pretty hurt. I'm gonna just leave her there so that I'm gonna leave her there. As that is going to be her turn. Basil, you're up. Mrs. Q, you're on deck.
I'm up?
Yes.
Okay. So you're asking me?
As you see a bunch of vines sprouting from a bunch of different places around this map and two more trees coming to life. Elle facing off with Aurora, while the main tree is a little farther back now, being pulled from one of the vines.
So Basil thinking like, okay, you want me to prove myself? I'll prove myself. He goes into Hulk Basil, growing bigger, and he just approaches the tree that is closest to him, and he is just gonna try and like hack at this tree. Still with his frost aura sword.
Okay. Go ahead and make an attack.
Okay. So one of them is 17 and the other's a 16.
Both hit.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let's go.
All right, let me figure out how this will work because I have a lot of extra things.
Okay, so 16's the AC.
Shush you.
Well, I got 15 on my first attack. Not bitter, you're bitter.
I'm not bitter, you're bitter.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 2. Yeah. So it's gonna be 24 slashing damage, and then what is this? It'll be an additional 5 cold damage.
An additional 5 cold damage. And as you slash into this thing, the cold kind of jumping from your blade to quell a few of the living embers in this tree. You hear it kind of groan, very much like the way branches groan in a strong wind as it looks down towards you, as you've got its attention. Still very much standing though.
Okay.
And that is your turn?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Q.
Mrs. Q feels exasperated because once again, she's looking at the situation at hand and thinking, I'm really not very well equipped for this. And the only thing that she thinks will be particularly useful in this situation is the thing that she's going to do. So you see her sort of get out her little water canteen, pour a little drop of water on her hand, close her eyes and whisper some things, and cast Create Water, and just dump like 10 gallons of water on this guy.
That's actually pretty sick.
Love it.
All right, which guy are you aiming for? The main guy, the guy to your left, or the guy to your right?
The main guy.
Oh,
The main guy.
I have no idea if this is going to do any damage. But I just see fire, water.
you're gonna put out his fire beard.
Yeah, it'll be all like naked face. Aw,
Now, 10 gallons is not a lot.
no, I know.
This creature is huge.
Maybe you should aim for one of the small
The
ones.
big creature.
It's like you threw a glass of wine in its face.
That's a little what it's like.
Which
10 gallons is decent. It's like a kiddie pool.
This creature is huge. It's
I
like
know,
40 feet tall.
I know.
Maybe you should have-
I know.
I like it though. I like the creativity. So, okay, you see this thing and you can create water wherever you want, right?
So I can either actually, no, now that I read this, it says that I create up to 10 gallons of clean water within range in an open container. Alternatively, the water falls as rain in a 30-foot cube within range, extinguishing exposed flames in the area.
Ah, okay. It falls as rain.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the creativity. I will say I will give this guy a chance to roll against the rain, and if he fails, he's going to essentially be blinded for a turn as he tries to get the water out of his eyes, and I just rubbed all the makeup off my eyeballs.
Oh,
didn't use the waterproof makeup.
I know I didn't use the waterproof makeup. So I will give him a Constitution. Yeah. So as the rain falls, he kind of looks up and it's a little confusing, if nothing else. He hasn't seen rain in so long. But as the rain falls, you see him kind of shake off, and the rain almost turns to steam before it hits him, as the heat from the core of this thing just evaporates the water as it falls in this space. Unfortunately, he made his save and is unaffected by the rain, but I do like the creativity of it.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. It is now the two other awakened trees' turn. As tree A that I will label later. Saved on its strength save against Elle's entangle, and you see as it turns, kind of crushing the entangle under the ground or under its feet as it looks towards you, Basil, and is going to take is going to try and slam you twice. The first is a 13.
Misses.
The second is a 23.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are going to take So you take 16 fire damage as one of them misses beside you, and on the upswing, it slams into you. And you feel the air get hit from your lungs as you kind of like take a step back as this thing turns fully to face you, turning its back on Astra and Elle.
As it hits me, this is for some flavor. Let's say you'll see the fire kind of like singe Basil, but then it almost seems as if like the skin or fur just seems to like absorb it. And for that one instance, he becomes resistant to fire.
Ooh, very cool.
Indeed.
Okay. As that is that first creature's turn, the second creature after awakening.
That halves the damage, right?
If you are resistant, yes, you take half damage. So instead of 16, you would take 8 fire damage. That's really neat, Basil. The second creature is going to step in the way of the one that animated it and engage with all of you right here, aiming for the one that is currently doing the most damage to the main creature, and is going to take 2 slam attacks at you, Aurora. The first one is going to be an 18, and the second one is a 24.
Ow.
Yeah, like a down and an upswing with the same hand.
I wasn't trying to beat around the bush when I was asking what we need to do.
On the first hit, you take 16 fire damage.
Okay.
And the second, you take 13 fire damage as these 2 massive, like, tree fists essentially like slam into you overhead.
Oh.
As you can all now feel the heat of these 2 like fire treants in close proximity to you, with the largest of the figures and the most animated, still a little entangled in Astra's grasping vines, about 30 feet away. Wanting to be cognizant of time, it is 10 p.m. And I think we might, as Georgina is currently working away, I think we might pause there for the next time so that at least we have a little bit of an evening tonight for the 2 of you. But that is 1 round of combat, as a heads up.
Cool.
Go.
And hopefully we can have Steph back for the
Yeah.
The culmination. Awesome.
Yeah.